Hey, it's State of State. We got your Nittany Line update. It's a football discussion with Tom and Justin, so kick back and press play.
With former Penn State and NFL defensive back Justin King, I'm Tom Hannafin. This is State of State. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Follow us on social media at State of State Pod. Comment on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel. For just 99 cents a month, you can get all upcoming episodes of State of State, plus our entire members-only playlist, ad-free, commercial-free. Hit the join button on our homepage or follow the link in the description of this podcast. This podcast is presented by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, as are the NBA and NHL playoffs. There are so many ways to get in the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from Major League Baseball to the NBA, the NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains the number one online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Penn State fans, are you feeling confident that the Nittany Lions can win college football's national championship next season? Lock in your futures bet at betonline.ag today. State of State is presented by BetOnline. The game starts here. State of State is a proud supporter of Blue White Outfitters. Blue White Outfitters was created as a retail shop meant to highlight the confidence, competitiveness, and fearlessness of the elite athletes found throughout the history of Penn State University. Check out their Lockdown U and Lawn Boys merchandise today. All sales from Blue White Outfitters directly benefit Penn State student athletes. Also, official State of State merchandise is available now. Support the show and grab State of State t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Visit www.bluewhiteoutfitters.com today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to State of State. I'm Tom Hannafin, flying solo today. Breaking news, Penn State football has landed Syracuse wide receiver Trebor Pena in the transfer portal. This has been something that Penn State fans have been paying very close attention to. Pena visited State College, not this Friday, but last Friday, and has had visits that were reported to Miami, UCLA, and USC. This is a big piece of news considering the NFL draft is going on, Penn State having a lot of success in the NFL draft. Plus, today is the 2025 Blue-White game, not televised, but going down today. So we'll see what any of the information is that comes out of that. And on top of that, the transfer portal for the spring window closed yesterday, the 25th. So what still could happen is you could learn in the next few days of the paperwork being finalized for Penn State football players to be entering the transfer portal. So I'm very curious to see what the domino effect from this is, if there are any additional players, namely wide receivers, that hop into the transfer portal, leaving Penn State because of this. But let's approach this in a couple of ways. One, Trebor Pena, arguably the best wide receiver talent that Penn State could have gotten from the transfer portal in this cycle, in this window. Trebor Pena, 84 catches, over 900 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns last year at Syracuse. Now, you try and put this into context. It was more of an air raid style with former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord calling signals for Syracuse. Kyle McCord having an outstanding year. ACC play, McCord benefiting Pena, Pena benefiting McCord. So you understand that. There was the conversation from Syracuse head coach Fran Brown alleging that Trebor Pena was seeking compensation in the neighborhood of $2 million for this upcoming season, and the possibility that Trebor Pena was concerned about Ricky Collins being the starting quarterback for Syracuse entering 2025, or at least not being very confident in the quarterback position entering 2025. Since then, Syracuse has gone and got Steve Angeli, the backup quarterback from Notre Dame, who people got to see last year when Penn State played Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl, back end of the second quarter of that game. Angeli came in relief of Riley Leonard. So things have changed there in northern New York, but Trebor Pena comes with a good skill set. Most of what he was able to do with Syracuse, it was by volume, and it was not necessarily running incredibly long routes, but still very productive, great numbers in a pass-happy offense. So what can we potentially expect from him at Penn State? Now, this is already a system that has brought in 2 transfer wide receivers. We talked about it a lot. Kyron Hudson, the transfer from USC, who had a highlight reel catch against LSU early on in the 2024 season, spent 4 years at USC looking to round out his college experience at Penn State. And then you have Devonte Ross, transfer from Troy in the Sun Belt, played well against Iowa last year. That's something that really sparked Penn State's attention. So you bring these 2 guys in the winter. So they've had a little bit of time here to get acclimated to Penn State football, the winter workouts, spring practices, obviously ending today with the blue-white game. This is going to be a slow process for Trebor Pena to get onto campus, first of all, in the coming months at Penn State and get acclimated quickly because, as I mentioned, Hudson and Ross have had more time. Plus, the remainder of the room has had more time and has spent more time in the system with the team in general and under offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki. So I think the natural question a lot of people might have is, well, could he duplicate the numbers that he had last year at Syracuse? My gut would say I doubt it. I don't know if he is better than Hudson or Ross. I think it could be safer to make the argument that maybe he has a better skill set than Devonte Ross. But again, that's just simply based on one guy playing in the ACC and another guy having played in the Sun Belt. So there's still a lot of things that remain to be seen. We're really not going to know what Trebor Pena looks like as a Penn State Nittany Lion until he's on the field. And that's the challenge, is already we've gotten a good idea of Kyron Hudson and Devonte Ross. But still, you have now theoretically your top 3 wide receivers being all transfer products and having to learn a new system in a short amount of time, much shorter for Pena than Hudson and Ross. What this move signals for me is Penn State going all in at the position that was arguably its weakest in 2024, obviously drawing a tremendous amount of scrutiny during the season, and especially that aforementioned Orange Bowl performance where no wide receiver recorded a catch whatsoever for Penn State against Notre Dame. So to me, I've said it before, 2025 feels like an all-in season for Penn State football. It is the strongest case that Penn State can make to credibly contend for the national championship, considering the nucleus that could depart for the NFL draft in 2026. Also, could Andy Kotelnicki be done at Penn State after 2025? There's several elements there to consider. To me, this is, let's load up that wide receiver room as best we can with as many potential threats as we can get. Hudson, you have size, strength, great possession receiver, can make the highlight reel catch. Devonte Ross, speedy, shiftier, smaller guy, but still fits within what James Franklin historically has liked at a wide receiver. And you also have the kick return ability. And then you have a guy like Trebor Pena, who reminds me a little bit of a Parker Washington, I guess, for Penn State fans remembering that. His athletic makeup kind of reminds me a little bit of Parker Washington, but I think Trebor Pena just gives you options and a surefire target that you can put in a lot of different positions within the offense. Would he be a slot receiver? Well, would Ross be a slot receiver? Is Penn State going to lean more tight end heavy, having a lot of different receiving threats at tight end that they can utilize? It's not going to be what it was last year where Tyler Warren was getting just a boatload of touches, period, across the offense. So I still think this offense is going to be based very, very heavily around running football with Nick Singleton and Kyron Allen. No mistake about that. But this just gives quarterback Drew Allar plenty of options that when he's scanning the field, he could potentially see more options than he's seen in the past. It's been a real issue for this wide receiver core for a number of years, and you can feel the pressure that James Franklin, Andy Kotelnicki, wide receivers coach Marcus Hagans are putting on the existing room of, hey, somebody's got to step up. There has to be a number of wide receivers that can create separation. That's been consistently the problem for the last few years, is just somebody's got to get open. Somebody's got to make a play in space. But more importantly, you just got to be able to get away from Big Ten defenders, elite defenders. You have to be able to win those one-on-one matchups. So to me, I don't know if all of a sudden getting Trebor Pena makes Penn State, rank them there within the Big Ten or even college football as having the best or one of the best wide receiver rooms. It really just remains to be seen, because arguably your top 3 guys are transfers. So you just have to wait and see. I think there's a domino effect that comes with this. I've seen a lot of people talking about this as, oh, well, Drew Allar won't have any more excuses. I don't think Drew Allar has made one excuse once about what the offense has done. He's taken a lot of the responsibility and the blame, especially for the Orange Bowl. And it sounds like during the offseason, the plan with Franklin, Kotelnicki, and quarterbacks coach Danny O'Brien, plus Trace McSorley as an offensive analyst, has been to help Drew Allar take that next step in terms of his emotional state during games, that next step with maturity, which was to be expected. The last few years, you've seen how he's made that incremental progress, and he's gone from conservative to a strong leader. And now it's, hey, can you elevate the people around you? And I think that's the question and the ask for him in 2025. But also, as you've infamously heard the quote, maybe not infamously, but you've heard the quote from multiple members of this Penn State coaching staff, is to be the thermostat and not the thermometer, to regulate the situation as opposed to being caught up in it. And you can see plenty of times where Drew Allar, his emotions, his frustration have gotten the best of him. Will he show that he's moved past that in his senior year? That remains to be seen, but you're certainly setting him up for success. Adding Pena, yes, it's another wrinkle because it's another transfer guy he's going to have to get used to, and he's going to have to wait to start getting used to him. That's a challenge, Pena getting onto campus. And this is another guy who, one more year of eligibility, older player, seasoned player, has been through the grind, experienced, but still somebody that Drew Allar is going to have to get used to. The intriguing part of this to me as well is, what is the domino effect going to be on the rest of the wide receiver room? I've said it before on here. I would not have been shocked if Penn State had not gotten a wide receiver whatsoever in this transfer portal cycle, because it felt like there was confidence and excitement about what Tyser Denmark could do, the redshirt freshman out of Philadelphia. Denmark is one of 3 receivers left on the roster this year that caught a pass last year. But Denmark obviously coming in, a lot of excitement and potential. Was he going to be able to take that next step? James Franklin has spoken publicly saying, just because he's a redshirt freshman, we need him to step up. We need him to be more consistent. He has flash, but he has all the ability, and that no one cares what age he is, that Penn State is expecting him to play a role this season. So there was part of me that was thinking, hey, there's your number 3 wide receiver behind Hudson and Ross. And then the rest of the room, you're kind of looking around saying, all right, who is going to step up? Liam Clifford, obviously a redshirt senior, a legacy at Penn State football, was somebody that, okay, at least that was a reliable commodity. You knew what that was. And then there's the grab bag of players that it's, hey, kind of wait and see, of Caden Saunders, Anthony Ivy, and Josiah Brown, some names that you're like, okay, like, what are these guys eventually going to do? Peter Gonzalez, a redshirt freshman, came in the same time as Denmark, but has been dealing with a long-term injury, working his way back from injury. And then it's young guys like Kobe Howard, Matt Otten, Lyric Samuel, who are true freshmen, have come on and flashed in winter workouts and in spring practices, but still very early in their maturation process. You got a guy like Kobe Howard, who it sounds like has been pretty consistent. Matt Otten, 6'1", 215 pounds, so already has kind of that build where he could be ready, but Lyric Samuel probably has to add to his frame a little bit more, 6'4", 187 pounds, so a little bit more slight, I guess, in that department. So my question ultimately, and I said it before, there's instances where you've seen days after the transfer portal is closed, so-and-so has entered the transfer portal. Well, I thought it closed. Well, sometimes the paperwork can get filed and it takes a few days for those things to get out there. So I am interested to see if this has an effect on the room in general in the short term of players, specifically from the wide receiver room, departing, because now this is another year where they could look at it one of 2 ways. Is this another year where, hey, I'm not going to get to play? Or is this another year of development? And I'm okay with this because I'm behind some really experienced wide receivers in a redshirt senior in Kyron Hudson, a senior in Devonte Ross. As I mentioned, one more year of eligibility for Trebor Pena, that is. And I think the big piece, especially for Pena joining this wide receiver room versus the teams that he had scheduled visits for, Miami, UCLA, and USC, all of them, you could understand the excitement a wide receiver might have in going there. But Penn State, probably has the strongest case to say, hey, we could contend for the national championship this year. If Miami and things go great with Carson Beck, yeah, maybe they could find their way out of the ACC and into the college football playoff, but still they lost a lot of pieces in the portal and in the NFL draft. They've done very well in recruiting. So maybe, it's a maybe. USC and UCLA, even bigger maybe. A maybe of Nico Iamaleava now at UCLA, Jaden Mayava at USC, and a very talented wide receiver room there to begin with. Trebor Pena potentially looking at Penn State like, hey, I can win one here and I can play. So it sounds like this is giving Penn State as many options as possible in the wide receiver room. And I think the money thing is something people are going to be curious about is, hey, did Penn State cough up $2 million, 1.5, $1 million for Trebor Pena? At the time of this recording, I'm not sure. And I'm sure a lot of rumors and speculation will be put out there. And it's often impossible to really know what these numbers are exactly because it's behind closed doors. There's just not a lot of transparency. I would be stunned if Penn State paid him $2 million. I don't believe that he is the type of talent to the point that Fran Brown said. If $2 million is going to Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State, potentially, Trebor Pena is not in that category. But again, if you were willing to cough up a significant six-figure, even seven figures for Trebor Pena, it's a big indicator that, one, Penn State's prepared to spend at positions of need and prepared to spend to make sure that there's as much talent as humanly possible in that wide receiver room so that Penn State can make a run this coming year. This gives a lot of pieces, gadgets, weapons, whatever you want to call it, for Andy Kotelnicki to work with. I think it takes some pressure off of the tight ends. And not that that was a bad thing necessarily, but you have a young Luke Reynolds potentially as your number one pass catching tight end. And then you're working on getting guys into the mix. Andrew Rappleyea, Khalil Dinkins, more of a blocking tight end, but certainly can be involved in the passing game. There's a lot of talented guys in that tight end room that could get in there, but still young and developing. So I think it takes a little bit of pressure off them because you have a lot of seasoned wide receivers there in Hudson, Ross, and now Pena at like the top of the depth chart potentially. But this is very much a wait and see thing. Pena is going to have to get in, learn the offense quickly, and be ready to hit the ground running once training camp comes around. And then, of course, once the season gets underway. But to me, overall, this signals Penn State is not messing around when it comes to equipping Drew Allar, Andy Kotelnicki, and the offense with the best available players so they can make this wide receiver room as good as it possibly can be whenever Penn State attempts to make its run for the college football playoff. The more weapons, the better. And like I said, I don't necessarily expect Pena to grab the same numbers that he did at Syracuse last year. I don't think it's reasonable for Penn State fans to expect similar production or greater. And injuries are what they are, so you never know what can happen. But I think you have the potential to spread the wealth with Kyron Hudson and Devonte Ross, and now Trebor Pena. What does Tysier Denmark's role look like in this offense? Who else is able to contribute there? Is it a revolving door at wide receiver where you can go a little bit deeper into your depth chart at times because you don't need to rely on maybe one or two guys to really get the job done, and you can't take them off the field? So this just creates a lot of options for Penn State, but this is certainly going to be one that Penn State fans are excited about because, hey, wide receiver position has been bad. We went and got a wide receiver who had a really good year last year. Granted, lower competition in the ACC, but still credible competition. Seeing Pena now join Drew Allar and the rest of this wide receiver room, this is absolutely a step in the right direction. And it comes at a really exciting time with spring practices winding down. I'm very curious to see what the domino effect is, but right now Penn State seems to be doing everything possible to prepare this wide receiver room to be able to compete at the highest level in 2025 because it has to be able to compete at the highest level in 2025. Even though, yes, like I said, this is an offense that is going to be based around running the football and setting up Drew Allar in the play action game to create opportunities. If no one scares you at wide receiver, then it doesn't really matter. Sometimes you can load up the box and you can just attack Penn State that way. And Notre Dame did something similar. So now with 3 credible threats at wide receiver, and again, I say that now, but we have to see what they actually look like once they're out on the field. Does Ross take that step up in competition? Kyron Hudson, is he able to be a true number one? Where at USC, I wouldn't describe him as a true number one. Trebor Pena was the number one in the offense he was just in, but it's a different style of offense, much higher volume passing, much higher volume in terms of reception. So a lot remains to be seen, but Penn State making it very clear they are out to repair this wide receiver position for 2025. And the recruiting trail continues to be very, very strong for 2026 and 2027. That developmental piece for the future, I hope it stays there because there's a lot of really talented guys in the room right now and on the way. You know, there's a lot of excitement about recruit Jasir Rogers somewhere in the future. So you just have to wait and see. But this feels like so much of 2025 already felt like Penn State going all in this season to potentially compete for a national championship. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned in the weeks to come, and we'll see what comes of this move for Penn State, how Pena gets acclimated to Penn State football, if there's any ripple effect in terms of Penn State players, wide receivers, also departing the program that we could learn about in the coming days. So we'll have it all right here on State of State.
Thank you all so much for joining us. This episode and our entire library of shows is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Follow us on social media at State of State Pod. Comment on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel. For just 99 cents a month, you can get all upcoming episodes of State of State, plus our entire members-only playlist, ad-free, commercial-free. Hit the join button on our homepage or follow the link in the description of this podcast. State of State is presented by Bet Online and by Blue White Outfitters.